Hello everyone. Today I'll be talking about paper and the movement associated with it. Paper is a solid material which can float, sink, fly, crumble, and torn into different shapes and pieces and can form or give meaning to the objects. I took variety of paper today which I crushed in my hand, threw them in the air and tried to experiment with it. I also tried to hear the sound of the paper, which hits different depending on the material. The tissue paper has less to no sound, however, a hard colored paper will have a shrill sound. Now, if I try to drop the two pieces of paper, both will have different density and weight. One will weigh lighter, however, the other one will weigh heavier. Next, I tried to dip the paper into the water where the tissue paper absorbs so much water that it turns into a hard piece and shrinks almost one-fourth of its size. However, a paper like newspaper or notebook paper would become heavier and denser, which explains Mihali's concepts of movement like these as flow, where rhythm and flow of making of bodied sensations shows how we get affected with each entity. I also took a paper and rolled it into different pieces like a big fan. This was the activity which we used to do when I was a child. This fan, which is made out of the paper, can be used for fanning process, can be turned into different shapes, and if we try to open it, it will try to retain the same creases that it had before. Next, I put some paint on my thumb and tried to draw my imprints on the sheet of paper with the help of the paint. I also took the paint brush and took some yellow paint to draw some shapes with the paint. I next decided to cut the circle out and tried to dig some holes into the sheet of paper to see and measure the thickness of the sheet. This clearly explains the scientific phenomena that every sheet behaves differently. If I would have done the same thing on a tissue paper, it would just bring or break down into different pieces. And it turned out into a flower. Next, I tried to draw a clown face with eyes and mouth, which Ingold describes as a gestural dance. I can make a mask out of it which conceals my original facial expression. The modulation of material does not really takes us where we will end up. I also notice that when I draw some paint on my palm and try to take different prints, the prints come out very different on different sheets of paper. This could be related to the thickness of the different sheets, which is why the paint hits differently. And as I try to draw it more on different sheets of paper, it eventually tries to evaporate. I also tried to notice the sound of different paper, which has a different effect on my mind. I tried to turn paper into different shapes where I made a flower and then an aeroplane out of the paper. This was one of the activities which I really used to do when I was a childhood, and it would just bring back all those nice memories. As Deleuze explains, the movement of paper is both rhythm and repetition, the doing and undoing, which is why I tried to burn the paper at the end, which made it turn into ashes and it disappears in the atmosphere. How strange is that a solid object could actually disappear as if it was nothing. This practice reflects on being at the brim of experimentation of new possibilities was certainly surprising and unprecedented, which is to be explained by Davis as we see how paper changed its state of matter. And this entire journey tells me about how paper can be used as a form of movement. Thank you.